When it comes to the medium of comic books and the genre of superheroes, there are two titans that have consistently stood at the top of popularity and stuck with mainstream pop culture: Marvel and DC Comics. These monoliths have created some of the most iconic characters in modern-day media, including Batman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, Spider-Man, and several others. These are all characters that have stayed within Western culture for decades for one reason or another. From Wonder Woman's compassion, Batman's morals, the X-Men's persecution, or Iron Man's paranoia and alcoholism. Typically, Marvel characters are designed to relate to us, show realistic events, show problems that a character may face for their superhuman abilities. DC characters, on the other hand, are meant to be looked up to, seen as paragons or gods that are meant to encourage us into being the best versions of us that we can be. Obviously, both companies have attempted what the other has done, like how Captain America is more of a paragon. But these are the traits that I think make both companies' characters stand out and stay in the mainstream. Most people always debate about which brand is better, talking about how Spider-Man's money problems are more compelling than Batman's desire to never let someone experience what he did, or how Thor is boring and Wonder Woman's better due to her truthful, compassionate spirit. But it doesn't matter which company is better, they do their own things well. However, out of every A-list hero that people mention, there is one, a couple, a lot, that people misunderstand, mischaracterize, and claim as boring due to their lack of understanding. The hero, created by both Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel in 1938, who started out as a bald-headed villain in 1933, before being refined, changed, and plastered on the cover of Action Comics #1. This character is Superman. When Superman was first introduced, he managed to cement himself as the most popular hero of all time. Soldiers of the Second World War lived out fantasies of being able to leap over tall buildings, lift cars, and punch that damn supervillain to prevent his insidious plans from playing out. Superman may be strong, fast, and basically invincible, but throughout many years, Superman has managed to evolve, develop, and grow into something more than what most people think of him. People don't like Superman. They find him boring, lifeless, overpowered, and unrealistic. Today I talk to those people, and I ask them to listen because Superman is misunderstood, and here's how. Some people think Superman has no personality. People think that Superman has no character trait other than being a good guy. This is a misconception. Superman has shown other emotions like anger, sadness, and nervousness. Whether it's in Metropolis fighting crime, talking to the Kents, or working with the Justice League, Superman has been in control or stressed, happy or sad, even angry or scared. Superman grew up on Earth like any other human had before him. And Superman's adopted parents are the reason Clark is the person he is. John and Martha showed Clark what it meant to be human, to work hard, to do good, and to stay strong in the face of struggles. After Clark's superheroics, he stays with the Kents because at the end of the day, Superman isn't just a lifeless, brooding god. Rather, he's just a hard-working, kind man who was born with these powers and shown good morals by the right people. Superman grew up on Earth, so he knows about the best burger places or restaurants. He's gone through some of the tough parts of high school, hung out with friends, lost them, and has found a career like any other person. This leads me to Superman's relationships with the people of the Earth. Throughout the DCAU continuity, Superman's hopeful demeanor has not only impacted the people of Earth, but other heroes as well. When Batman and Superman first met during World's Finest, they started off as rivals. The episode is about the beginning of the most iconic friendship in superhero history. Batman and Superman's ideologies of justice clash, but eventually they team up to take down the Joker. In another episode of Superman's show, The Demon Reborn, Superman and Batman partnered up for the third time.
I have to admit it was clever, using Ra's devotion to his daughter to stop him.
Well, I thought as long as I couldn't charge in with both arms swinging, I better use my head. You know, there might be something to this partnership business after all.
Yeah, right.
Batman and Superman would team up once again after forming the Justice League with a few other heroes. And Batman would actually manage to lighten up, have a little bit of fun with superheroics, and Superman was responsible for that. The two of them started off as rivals, became co-workers, and after forming the Justice League, became friends. One of my favorite superhero stories is in the Justice League's second season 2-parter, Hereafter. In part 1, the League actually thinks that Superman has died.
No! Superman, go bye-bye!
Superman's death in this episode was so sudden, so quick, so immediate that all the other heroes froze. Superman, the one who brought hope across the planet, the one who showed humanity that compassion was not weakness, that violence should not be answered with violence, that you can stand up stronger the next day no matter how hard you fall, was now dead. On the day of Superman's funeral, all of the League, Superman's family, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, other heroes, and lastly, several heads of state from almost all countries of the world. Every time I watch this scene, it gives me chills. The combination of the music, the characters, and the striking image of the House of El symbol is truly powerful.
Though we gather here today, bound together in sorrow and loss, we share a precious gift. We are all of us privileged to live a life that has been touched by Superman. The Man of Steel possessed many extraordinary gifts, and he shared them with us freely. None of these gifts were more remarkable than his ability to discern what needed to be done, and his unfailing courage in doing it, whatever the personal cost. Let us all strive to accept his gift and pass it along as an ongoing tribute to Kal-El of Krypton, the immigrant from the stars who taught us all how to be heroes.
However, there was one hero who didn't show up. One hero who didn't believe Superman was dead. And that hero was Batman. Superman's ideology of hope brought so much impact to him that he abandoned all of his rationality, his realistic mindset, his detective brain, all because of Superman's ideology.
What is it, Alfred?
I'm afraid it's time, Master Bruce.
I'm not going to the funeral.
Why?
Because he's not dead. What tipped me off was the lack of evidence.
Sir?
I brought all this from the crime scene, and I've examined it every way I know how.
And you found?
Absolutely nothing. No scorching, no residue, no radiation. Objects were here, then they were gone.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Matter can't be created or destroyed, just changed from one form into another.
As you say, sir. I believe I heard something about that when I attended grammar school.
So, unless the law of conservation of mass has been repealed, there's still hope.
That's wonderful news, Master Bruce. Nevertheless, don't you think you should make an appearance?
What for? I've got work to do.
When everyone's gone, Batman walks to Superman's grave after all of his detective work led to a dead end. And he says,
Another dead end. I'm beginning to wonder if I might be wrong. I've got some things to say. I should have said them when you were here, but despite our differences, I have nothing but respect for you. I hope you know that. You showed me that justice doesn't always have to come from the darkness. I'll miss... What did you always call it, Clark? The never-ending battle?
These lines are so important because they manage to show Batman, the dark, feared vigilante of the night, the stoic man who never showed fear or vulnerability because of the experience he had when he was an 8-year-old boy, actually expressing said emotional weakness, because that's how much Superman meant to him. Superman was such a loving, hopeful person that Batman managed to get the person who he opposed in terms of dealing with criminals to respect the ideas he represented and the way he showed the world that anyone could be a better person.
Hey, Superman's coming!
He's gonna help!
It's okay now. I've got you. All right. Who wants to explain what you were doing up there?
They dared me.
We didn't think you'd do it.
I know it's tough to turn down a dare, but sometimes being brave means using your head and not doing something dangerous just because other kids pressure you.
You're right, Superman. I'll be smarter next time. Yeah, thanks, Superman.
Okay then. Bye-bye.
I knew you'd chicken out!
You play chicken long enough, you fry.
The Superman-Batman relationship is such an important pillar of the Superman character because it not only allows for entertaining banter between the characters, but it also manages to show the philosophy of Superman. The best trait of Superman isn't how calm he is, how funny he is, or even how he's doubtful of whether he can do anything to help the world, but it is his consistent ability of being good-natured time and time again, and his willingness to help people no matter what it takes. Superman believes people are kind-hearted. He has faith in humanity. I truly believe the people of Earth are good and decent. In times of trouble, they will rise up to make things right. I may be halfway around the world, but Earth's real heroes are everywhere. Superman is inspiring. Your doctor really did get held up again. It's never as bad as it seems. You're much stronger than you think. Trust me. Superman believes in others. And you don't need my autograph, son. I'm no more special than you, than any of you. Superman is more than the powers. It's not about our powers, or strength, or heat vision. It's about character. Superman isn't about the powers. It's about the person inside. It's important to recognize that Superman is a human like everyone else, that he is charitable, funny, brave, and presents an important message that anyone can be impacted by. Being human is about being your own best person and helping others whenever they need it. Ultimately, Superman shows us what it means to be human, what it means to be a good person, because Superman isn't about the flashy, destructive fight scenes. His stories are about optimism and faith, which means so much more than any shallow action scene will ever be. The second major misconception is that Superman can never lose. If all Superman needs to do is punch things, then it doesn't make a good story. First off, Superman has lost multiple times and multiple fights. And secondly, if all the story involved was punching the bad guy to submission, then yes, it would be boring. However, this is a major misunderstanding of not just Superman, but it is a misrepresentation of most, if not all, superhero conflicts. What makes a fight between someone like Batman and the Joker interesting isn't just how the fight is choreographed, rather it is the ideologies of both characters clashing. Batman is the idea of order, morals, and principles, while the Joker is meant to stand in for chaos and our collective fear of anarchy. It's why people love these characters when they interact. The purpose of conflict in a superhero story is presenting two opposing points of view. This is why I love Superman villains like Lex Luthor and General Zod, because they present ideologies that oppose Superman. Lex Luthor is an interesting villain because he is a cold, calculated, intelligent billionaire who Superman can't beat with his fists due to Lex Luthor's power over Metropolis and the laws Superman must abide by. Lex Luthor is the opposite of Superman. Someone who can make the world better through his scientific prowess, but doesn't because he is a greedy, corrupted person who hates Superman for being an immigrant and helping people. Lex Luthor is meant to represent our fears of billionaires with major control, and shows us that Luthor is someone we shouldn't try to be. Superman is incorruptible, while Luthor is the concept of corruption itself. Throughout the Superman mythos, the conflict between Lex Luthor and Superman are allegorical for their clashing views. To see what I mean, let's talk about my favorite fight between the two that takes place during All-Star Superman.
Superman.
Originally written by Grant Morrison and adapted by the late great Dwayne McDuffie, All-Star Superman is a powerful story that gives out the idea that in dark, scary times where it feels as if there's no possible way to win, there is always a way. This story truly understands what Superman means as a character. In one scene of the film, Lex Luthor has found a way to get Superman's powers for a temporary 24 hours, and he beats Superman to the ground. Lex Luthor finally has a chance to win against Superman in a fight and show that he, a mere human, is superior. To understand Luthor himself, we need to talk about Kent's interviews with him and see what Lex thinks of Superman.
It sickens me, that insipid, boyish grin, the smug self-regard. Tell the truth. Doesn't his very existence diminish you? Diminish us all?
Our jobs don't really overlap.
What are you writing about me? Give me that. Code? I'll decipher it in less than a minute.
It's shorthand, Lex.
What kind of ridiculous affectation is that for a man?
Can you imagine a better world, Kent? That's all I've ever asked. In a world without Superman, the unattainable Lois Lane might have noticed good old Clark, pining away in the corner.
You keep talking about me, but I'm here to interview you.
I'm just saying, a strapping farm boy with brains, integrity, no discernible style of his own. You're a prize catch for a cynical city girl.
Why haven't you filed an appeal?
But with him around, you're a parody of a man. A dullard, a cripple. Next to Superman, even Lex Luthor's greatness is overshadowed.
Are you trying to intimidate me?
I'm trying to educate you. We all fall short of his sickening, inhuman perfection. Feel that, Kent. Real muscle. Not the gift of alien biochemistry, the product of hard work.
You don't really act like a man facing the end of his life.
No, I don't. What would you do if you had his powers?
Help people?
You probably would. You lack the imagination to see the alternatives.
Alternatives?
To truth, justice, and all the other things you can't weigh or measure. To every abstract notion he personifies.
Lex Luthor believes Superman is inhuman, not just because he is a god, but because he believes anyone with his powers would be corrupt, just like him. He claims that Superman degrades the rest of humanity because he didn't do any of the hard work, and unlike Superman, when he talks about Kent, he says,
I've always liked you, Kent. You're humble, modest, comically uncoordinated, human. In short, you're everything he's not.
Pretty ironic considering Clark and Superman are one and the same. Lex Luthor's cynicism and hatred of Superman is established in this incredibly well-written scene. Now that we know more about Lex, when he's finally knocked down Superman, he literally walks in the air, which manages to show his ego and superiority over everyone. But when he stops for a single minute, he realizes what Superman sees every single day.
Lay down your weapons and you won't be hurt. I'll be moving into the White House later today. I'll make my formal declaration then.
Ooh. Can we have a show trial before we put these traitors to death? Are you okay?
Better than okay. I can see the entire electromagnetic spectrum. And those must be atoms. Little clouds of possibility. Einstein couldn't connect the gravitational force to the other three. But if he could have seen this, it's so obvious.
Uncle Lex?
The fundamental forces are yoked by consciousness. Everything's connected. Every one. And this is how he sees things all the time. Every day. It's a cruel joke. The mechanistic clockwork of reality hinging on a precious, impossible defiance of entropy, on life. And the clockwork doesn't care. It's like it's all just us in here together. We're all we've got.
Luthor realizes that Superman knows that in the grand scheme of the universe, living things don't matter, that the universe will move on and forget about them inevitably. Even though Superman saw this during almost every moment of his life, he still elected to help people. He chose to be kind. But then, Luthor's powers run out. Luthor's egotism kicks in, and he tells Superman that with his powers, he could have shown the world what he saw, that he could have changed the world. And Superman's response is pure gold.
Looking for this?
Give it back! I saw everything! I saw how to save the world. I could have made everyone see! If it wasn't for you, I could have saved the world!
If it had mattered to you, Luthor, you could have saved the world years ago.
You're right.
Luthor finally realizes that he could have done so much good with his intelligence and billions of dollars to actually make the world a better place, but his ego and negative view of the world turned him into the evil villain he thought Superman was. My point is that when Superman fights involve him showing that kindness and caring win over corruption and evil, that's what makes Superman so special. My point is that people overlook the significance of Superman's battles, and people don't realize that in many conflicts Superman faces, he can't just win through his fists. Look to Action Comics number 900, where he couldn't intercept a conflict with his powers. Superman stood still for 24 hours. He did nothing, he said nothing, and he eventually flew away. But after he did so, two people, enemies, exchanged roses. Look at the second season of Justice League Unlimited, a complex political thriller that asks the hard questions about superheroes. What is their authority? What rights do they and the government have to protect themselves? Superman isn't always about whether he can win fights with his powers or not. Superman is about tackling the problems most people have difficulty in. Superman makes the hard choices and always makes the right decision time and time again, even if sometimes he can be impulsive. Superman is about winning by being the better person, and just because he's strong, it doesn't mean he can solve every problem with it. Realism in a story is the concept of integrating parts of our reality truthfully without involving anything supernatural or lying to the audience. Realism involves presenting an unembellished depiction of nature, people, or society. Several stories have attempted to implement realism and have not shied away from the questions that the audience will ask. People like realistic storytelling since it aligns with what many people associate with reality. So when people consume superhero content, they ask questions like, how do a pair of glasses disguise you? How can superheroes stand above the law? Why doesn't Batman just snap the Joker's neck? But for this video, the most important question is, why wouldn't anyone with Superman's powers use it for evil? Stories like Injustice, Martial Law, The Boys comic, and several others have tried answering this question, and the ideas they show that either one bad day will drive even the strongest-willed people mad, or the idea that no one would ever desire to help people, that with their powers they would try getting away with basking in the blood of several dead children before eating their kittens and puppies, using the veil of parody to pretend to deconstruct superheroes, while saying nothing other than, superheroes are bad. The Boys Amazon series is the only exception I've found. The Seven may be a parody of the Justice League, but they're meant to comment on the egotistical celebrity who will try to get as much fame as possible to fulfill their agenda, no matter the cost. So when people say Superman, they claim no one could be like him because humanity is selfish, mean, evil, that their greed will lead them to abusing their powers. This idea comes from an ideology of cynicism. Many people have a lack of faith in people's motives, and at times, it's reasonable. It's good to question the world around us. However, if gone too far, can lead to people being unreasonably nihilistic. Back in the late 90s, superhero comics started to get grittier. Heroes didn't have to smile, they could use guns and kill. With the changing times, comic book stories tackled more complex issues that didn't involve punching the bad guys to submission. And that led to the question of, are characters like Superman irrelevant? Are characters like him just relics from a bygone era of optimism? These questions have been Superman's biggest challenge for over 20 years now, and it would be tackled by Action Comics number 700. What's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way? And its film adaptation, Superman vs. the Elite. This story actually managed to show why the world needs characters like Superman, and also managed to refute this argument perfectly. The story's foundation is built on the moral debate of whether Superman's methods are truly helpful for the world. Superman is meant to be in contrast to the elite, who are comprised of Manchester Black, a telepathic, loud-talking Australian, Coldcast, capable of absorbing and casting energy, who also has a fairly questionable design in the original comic, Menagerie, who uses a symbiotic set of armor to create creatures, and the Hat, a magic user. When Superman meets the Elite for the first time, he appreciates the help. However, Clark notices the unnecessarily high amount of collateral damage that they have caused. Though they aren't perfect, Superman actually manages to work with them. But after some terrorists are found, Manchester almost kills them. This serves as foreshadowing for Manchester Black's ideology later on, and it's a great scene that shows the differences between him and Clark. The film builds up to Superman's realization that the Elite aren't great heroes, murdering people and not caring for the lives of civilians. This can be seen when several military soldiers surround Superman and they are brutally killed by the Elite. Broken bones, poisonous creatures, demons dragging them to their deaths, etc. After Superman wakes up in the Elite's multi-dimensional spaceship named Bunny, he starts criticizing them for their actions.
You killed them. Murdered the Bakolistani soldiers.
No offense, but someone had to do something while you were playing spastic on the floor.
This isn't a joke. You can't murder people and call yourselves heroes.
Why not? Your government does it all the time. Look, Soups, when we take down the baddies, they stay down. Isn't that better for everyone?
We are not above the law. We have to show the world that there's a better way. The people can be better.
But that's the problem. They can't. The world's overflowing with sick puppies. Original sin in 36 flavors.
I'm not an idiot. I know there are bad men in power. It's not a perfect world, but we can't just throw morality in the garbage.
You don't have a clue what it means to live in fear, do you? To wonder why no one can stop the bogeymen who knock down skyscrapers or blow up schools. Well, we do. Human beings do. We understand fear all too well. So now we're wiping the Earth free of scum, and they love us for it.
It can't be this way. You know that. I can't allow it.
You're welcome for the rescue. Bunny?
This argument is the crux of the film, and the biggest question that Superman as a character has faced. Manchester Black believes that Superman's methods of only placing supervillains in prison only leads to eventual escape and more loss of life. But Superman refutes this argument because he knows that people like him who have these gifts have the responsibility of doing good and never standing above the law. Superman's belief is that all of humanity can be good, that people can be kind and decent. But Manchester thinks the opposite, that society is evil, malignant, and unkind. This viewpoint stems from the idea that there are many corrupt people in power. But Superman points out that even with that, it doesn't mean you should throw all morality to the garbage bin. Black is a cynical nihilist and evil murderer. Why? Well, in life, it's easy for us to treat the world as if it's going to end. Climate change, racism, child labor, human trafficking, poverty, and starvation ravage the world. Many people like to think these issues are too big to fail, since human nature is selfish, sadistic, and evil. But people overlook the growth our society has gone through. Crime rates are down, the world's starvation is down 3%, there are several innovations to help with climate change, and the internet has resulted in people being more connected than ever. I'm not saying that all of the issues on the earth are gone, but our days are getting better, and people are actually recognizing our issues. You couldn't argue that a time like the 60s were better, since America pretended to have this image of freedom, but had several fountains labeled whites only. The 60s were also when the tensions between two military superpowers almost brought about the end of the world due to nuclear war. This scene shows us something not just about Manchester Black, but also all of the elite. They have all of that power, these gifts that with a little bit of creativity could result in major good being done for the entire world. But since they thought reality was ugly and mean, they turned ugly and mean because of their cynical idea that the world will never be good, that people will never be good. This is why I think the argument about how anyone like Superman would be corrupt is silly. Not only because the argument is built on cynicism, but also because humans want to help each other. They want to be kind and decent and good. It's the reason humanity has survived as long as it has. It's why we have built cities and cultures on the land around us. That is the point of Superman as a character. To show that humans can be nice, that people can help the world one step at a time, not through revenge or violence, but by being kind, civil, and doing what they can to be better people than yesterday. Throughout the film, we see Superman questioning himself, and what Pa Kent says to Clark is very poignant.
Been a lot of talk, not much of it good. Had to put a slap on Ben Farnsworth on account he said you looked the fool.
I did, Pa.
They sucker punched you.
Sucker teleported, technically. So even Smallville's rooting for the elite.
Well, just the loud, angry, and stupid.
Come on, it's not that simple. I don't think that I make them feel safe anymore. The way I do things.
Clark, when people are scared, they have a tendency to hop on a bandwagon before they see who's driving it. But when they wise up, and believe me, they will, what matters is that you'll be there for them. Leading by example, just like always. Truth, justice, and the American way. It ain't broke, so don't fix it.
Thanks, Pa.
Besides, if those knuckleheads don't quit tugging on your cape, you can always kick their self-righteous asses to kingdom come.
John's point is that the fear people have in society can lead to decisions that seem right without realizing it may be wrong. However, Superman can still lead by example and show the people another path. Pa's words mean a lot to me because in Western society, people want easy answers, simple solutions, but don't think before they act. And it's something I think people need to hear. After Superman protects a country from invasion without any loss of life, and talking about how he will make both countries negotiate, the elite tells Superman that they dealt with the problem another way. The supposedly efficient way. The way that's better than Superman's. Black got his team to kill both governments of the countries of interest, and Superman is pissed. In his anger, Superman punches Manchester Black and starts a war with the Elite. They plan to meet up at dawn in Metropolis. But the night before he's supposed to fight the Elite, Lois Lane doubts that he can take them on, that they're too strong for him. And when Lois Lane wakes up, all she finds is a note. I personally love these few shots since they present the egotism of the Elite, while also being representative of the domination that they supposedly have over Superman. I also love these lines showing Superman's concern for the people of Metropolis.
Pretty flash entrance, innit? Our Bunny's a keeper. Some people have no sense of theatre.
I call kneecaps.
Spine.
Other.
Wait. Not here. Please.
After being moved to an environment that can't result in any more loss of life, the moon, Superman is absolutely stomped on by the Elite, hit with seizures, symbiote creatures, magic spells, and eventually a massive explosion done by Coldcast. Manchester's speech during this scene shows the viewpoint of the Elite.
Attention would-be superheroes and glorious people of Earth. School's in session, and Professor Chester's gonna learn you how the world will work from this day on. Rule number 1. He who has the power makes the rules obvious.
Black is showing and telling people of Earth that his decisions are law and that he is above them always. The original comic makes this clear when Manchester says, "No one hurts one of my people and walks." The Elite have an arrogance that results in them treating their enemies as diseases to be cured. This is shown in Manchester Black's next line of dialogue.
Rule number 2. Tough love is a crock of scatters. This isn't about love. People don't want babysitters in spandex to spank them when they're bad. They want surgeons to cut out the cancers that fester in us and make sure they never come back.
The Elite treat themselves as if they are above the law and they want to help people. They only see the criminal that needs to be killed. They don't care about the people of the world. They only care about the fame, the attention, and the supposed good it will bring to the world if they rule it in their hands. In their heads, they can't see supervillains as people who deserve the right punishment by the hand of the law. They think they're better than that. And actually doing the right thing? That has and never will matter to them. What makes this scene so excellent is like any of the greatest Superman fights. It's about the philosophies of the characters. Unlike most other Superman fights, however, it seems to end in Superman's death. The Elite think their job is done. They've killed the biggest threat to their team. But little do they know, Superman would stop playing around. And that meant he would follow the Elite's playbook. Superman would cross the line, and he would become a monster.
Get it. I made the mistake of treating you people like people.
Feel to be deconstructed, to be the victim, to watch your dreams.
The world needs people in charge who are willing to put the animals down.
Damn it, Chester!
She's dead.
Bugger me. He's playing it our way. Leave her. Blister the land and flush him out.
The third act of the film is so compelling because it manages to deconstruct the ideologies the Elite have. In the scene, Superman is hidden, nowhere to be found, and the Elite are surprised that the massive explosion of Coldcast didn't do him in. Superman then says,
I finally get it.
Thank you.
No friggin' way.
Cool it, Hat. Coldcast?
Nothing could've. That was like 15 suns exploding in his face.
I made the mistake of treating you people like people.
Superman and every other great hero want to help people because they recognize that humans should be treated like humans. That with their powers, they have the moral obligation to help others and use their powers for good, while treating other people as equals. This line is a proclamation of abandoning one of the founding pillars of being a superhero. And that is scary because Superman, one of the nicest people on the planet, is finished with doing that. This entire scene is scary because it's meant to show Superman crossing the line, doing the thing he would never do, and abandoning his character. Let's continue.
But now, I understand better.
I'm getting a tight sphincter here, Chester.
Shut your gob!
I understand now what the world wants. What it needs. The world needs people in charge who are willing to put the animals down.
Is that Superman?
Not anymore.
Superman is following one of the playbooks of the elite, acting as if he knows the people better than they do themselves, as if he was smarter, better. Teams like the elite take control away from the people and make their own decisions regardless of what people think, since the average person can't do much, if anything, to stop them. They can say that they're here to help, act like they are kind and decent, but will execute people since they think they're better than humanity. After Superman takes out the Hat from a hurricane he formed going 500 miles a minute, Manchester Black as well as Coldcast realize that Superman is not fucking around, and the elite are terrified for their lives. They escape, teleport to Metropolis in front of a crowd of people, and they think they're safe. However, Coldcast is suddenly taken out, and Superman slams onto the ground.
If you had super hearing, any second you'd hear the pop.
This look of Superman is ugly, and it's supposed to be. The purpose of his bloodshot eye, tattered costume, and bloodied face is to subtly tell the audience that this Superman has become a bastardized version of himself. Superman and Manchester fight, which features some great shots and this important part.
How does it feel, Black? How does it feel to be deconstructed? To be the victim? To watch your dreams die?
Superman is criticizing the elite's methods by showing them the damage that they cause, the lives they ruin, and how scary a team like the elite are. The fight ends when Superman prepares his heat vision and gets rid of Chester's powers.
This isn't about love. People don't want babysitters in spandex to spank them when they're bad. They want surgeons to cut out the cancers that festered in us and make sure they never come back.
I'm thinking it, but why can't I feel my power?
I scanned your brain for abnormalities, and when I found one, I cut it out.
Superman literally became the surgeon, cutting out the part of Manchester's brain that gave him his powers. Superman took what Black said literally and decided to get rid of his gift. Manchester has lost everything, his team, his powers, and now it was going to be his life. However, when Superman is about to punch him into a bloody paste, he stops, puts his fist down, and lets go of Manchester. Superman explains everything. Superman's murder of the elite was an act, a performance. The purpose of it was to show Manchester what his team did and how they acted. Superman would never murder, and he never will. So he got the help of his robot servants who managed to protect any civilians in harm's way. My favorite part, however, is this.
You think that's it? It's not over, you punsy twit! If you think I'll just go to jail and rot, you're living in a dream world!
Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.
That is what makes Superman a hero. Superman is someone who will always lead by example, talking people down before ever using his powers. Sometimes his emotions get the better of him. He's impulsive when not in control, and always feels like he has the burden of the entire world on him. Even though the world isn't perfect, filled with dark, terrible things that seem so impossible to get past, Superman shows us that there is always a way. There will always be bad people out there. Some people will always kill, exploit, and scam others. But it's easy to say that. It's easy to look at history and come home with the idea that no one could ever be good. Especially now in our society that is divided more than ever, filled with prevalent world issues. It's easy to lose faith in our society. But Superman shows us that there are people who still want to do good, who still want to help others, and to fight back against the problems of the world. At the end of the day, if bad people can do bad things, then why can't good people do good? A lot of people don't like Superman because they think no one could be as kind as Clark Kent is. But if you ask me, it's just an incredibly negative way of viewing the world. People at their core want to help each other. They want others to thrive. They do this through creating charities, working specific careers, or by taking action when they see injustice. Because at humanity's core, we want to do good. We want to be good people. So if people have morals, then why wouldn't someone like Superman think it over and use his powers for the good of others rather than himself? If you couldn't tell, superheroes mean a lot to me. I've always read, watched, or played superhero stories because they've allowed me to try harder, to grow further, and to be better than yesterday. As cliche as it is to say, superhero stories are our modern day myths. Ever since humans were created, we've told stories. Terrifying creatures of the night, harrowing survival stories, and even stories of caped crusaders saving the day from supervillains. DC Comics' characters are so iconic because even though they weren't edgy or violent and always had a smile on their face, that's what made them special. DC's stories were always optimistic, and when you finished one of their stories, you'd walk away with a smile. They got violent, dark, or even brutal at times, but even if their stories went that route, the violence was purposeful. It had meaning. Its purpose wasn't to shock the audience. It was to give these iconic characters obstacles to overcome and show why these people should be looked up to. DC's heroes are described as gods amongst men, because they're characters who the audience can idolize for one reason or another. Which leads me to Superman. Even though Superman isn't my favorite superhero, I will always hold respect for what he represents as a symbol. Superman is a truly powerful idea of kindness above violence, decency against revenge, and the paragon of optimism in the face of impossible odds. So it saddens me whenever I think of Superman's last movie, which in my opinion went against almost everything Superman was as a character. It gets me incredibly infuriated because with the right execution, a Superman story can not only be popular, but during our politically divided, uncertain times when it feels as if the world is going to end any day now, Superman can show mainstream audiences that instead of shoving our political agendas in people's faces, bickering over our opinions in an attempt to show superiority, or being overwhelmed by the many, many parts of the world that terrify us, Superman says we should encourage civil discussion. Never give up on our dreams. Take the time to relax, slow down, and try to be a good person, no matter our circumstances or upbringing. Throughout All-Star Superman, we get to see the 12 great labors of Kal-El, the creation of the super serum, taking down the tyrant sun, and even answering the unanswerable question. However, one of the greatest Superman moments is something on a much smaller scale. Superman saves the day as he usually does, but one man is given focus throughout the issue. I got held up. No, don't put the phone down, Regan. Just stay in the apartment. You have to believe me. I'm on my way. After Clark stops a mad scientist with Alzheimer's, Superman hears, Regan. Oh God, I'm on my way. Don't put the phone down. Then what do we see? What do we see? We see a young girl standing on the roof of a building, The panel takes up half the page just so we can see the height. Then the girl drops her phone and gets ready to jump. But a hand gently pats her shoulder, and she notices the person behind her. Life will be hard. It's hard to have values you stand by. It's hard to find true happiness. It's hard to consistently be kind, and it's hard to self-improve. But Superman always shows me there's a hope for a better tomorrow when he says, "Your doctor really did get held up again. It's never as bad as it seems. You're much stronger than you think you are. Trust me."